Okay, good. So, good morning, everyone. How are you guys doing? You? Okay, fantastic. So who remembers what we did last lecture? Who can give us a recap from last lecture? I'm going to go with one of you guys in the back here.
Game theory?
Okay,
Yeah.
what about, give me your name again, please.
Neil?
Neil, okay, what did you learn about game theory? What is game theory, Neil?
That's all my notes.
That's good, but you have your notes with you too. That's excellent.
That an individual's payoff is contingent on his or her action as well as others.
Exactly. So the difference between game theory and what we've been looking at so far is that the payoffs of an individual agent is contingent on his or her actions as well as the actions of someone else, right? And it's exactly these types of strategic interactions that make the decision-making process such that I have to consider what Neil is going to do in order to figure out what my optimal reaction is. And that process of consideration, what is that called? We have a specific term for that. At a Nash equilibrium, what is each player doing to each other? What are they doing?
Best response.
The best responding, right? So they're saying, what's my best response given the action of another player? And once we compute those best response functions at the equilibrium, each player is going to be best responding to the other players. So we looked at game theory within the context of within the context of corner competition. And what was the other context that we looked at? What was the other game that we looked at?
Prisoner's dilemma.
Exactly. And so what happens in the prisoner's dilemma?
The cooperative outcome is paired in the Nash equilibrium.
Exactly. So so the Nash equilibrium actually in equilibrium, both players are worse off than they could be if they cooperated. Okay. And who can tell me how do we solve this problem? How do we get the agents to cooperate? You look like you've answered your. Give me your name again, please.
Mike,
Mike. Okay.
you make the matrix with each person's responses and choose their best response in each situation.
Okay, and we use that to get the Nash equilibrium. But then what we showed, which was what Andrew. What Andrew said was that what we showed was that the Nash equilibrium was actually everybody would defect and they would get a payoff of 0, whereas they could cooperate. So Mike, how did we then change the structure of the game so that we were able to show cooperation?
With repeated games and like a social contract to cooperate today, otherwise you wouldn't cooperate tomorrow.
Exactly, right? So that's perfect. And so we're going to pick up from there, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at the same prisoner's dilemma game, and we're going to consider what happens in an infinitely repeated game. And so in economics, we like to think about these kinds of infinite horizon games, infinite horizon times, because oftentimes it's a good approximation for like very repeated interactions. So for this class, for example, we're going to have about 32 different classes, so we'll have many interactions. If you think about your best friend, right? Like every day you have an opportunity to like or not like her post on Facebook, right? Or her post on Instagram, right? And so you can think about this infinitely repeated game as being some approximation for like very regular interactions. And we're going to look at how do we solve for that particular context. Okay. So I'm going to draw some boundaries here for this. And let me know if any of these boards you can't see on, or if at any time my handwriting is not big enough or clear enough, let me know. Okay, so we're going to do game theory. We're going to look at these games. And you should think about this as just a primer, right? This is just really to get your appetite wet for what game theory is. And so if you decide to take an undergrad course in game theory, you have some context of what's going on. But this is certainly a very classic game. If you pop this into Google Scholar and looked at Prisoner's Dilemma game, like you would just see like thousands and thousands of hits. Okay. Okay. So infinitely repeated games are a way to sustain cooperation in cases where the Nash equilibrium of the one-shot game. And by one shot, what we mean is you just have a single interaction and there's going to be no repeated interaction. Where the Nash equilibrium of the one-shot game when the Nash equilibrium of the one-shot game is Pareto dominated, by an alternative set of actions. Right? And so who can give me an example of a repeated game in this class in terms of like how the homeworks are structured?
You work with the same group.
Exactly, you work with the same group, right? And so what happens is now all of a sudden, if you were only working with your partner for one game, for a one-shot game, you can say, well, I'm just going to shirk. I'm just going to be a jerk, and I'm just not going to do it because if he doesn't do his work or she doesn't do the work, then we're all going to be screwed. But the other person has this incentive to do the work because if they don't do the work, then they're going to be screwed too, right? But if it's a repeated game, what's happening here is you can say, hey, like, if you don't do the work this time, like, I'm not going to do the work next time, and then we're both going to be screwed. And that can be a threat that you can follow through on, right? And so, in a sense, like, you can think about this course as being designed with some game theory in mind, right? So I put you in a context where you're going to play a repeated game with the same person too, and you're going to develop trust, and you're going to cooperate so that you can reach a higher level of excellence on your homeworks. So let's look at our game again. So we're going to have cooperate the fact, and this is going to be player one's actions. And player number two, cooperate in the fact. And we have a payoff of 4, 4, minus 1, 5, 5, minus 1, 0, 0, right? I want a volunteer to come to the board and walk us through how we did the best response, how we did the best responses from the previous course, previous lecture. So that's who's going to be out of the volunteer. The gentleman in the back with the green shirt. Give me your name, please.
Jeff.
Jeff, come to the front, Jeff. So Jeff is going to walk us through how we figure out what the Nash equilibrium is. So what do we do, Jeff?
Well, if player one decides to cooperate, player two's best decision is to not cooperate because they will get
Right. So if player one chooses to cooperate, we'll play if player one chooses to cooperate, we'll play 2 again. 5. So they're choosing between 5 and 4, yeah.
this.
Yep.
And then if player two decides to cooperate, player one's best choice is to.
Well, let's stick with player one, right? So you said if player one chooses to cooperate,
Right.
what is player two's best response? It's to defect. Now sticking again with player one, if player one chooses to defect, what is player two's best response?
Player two's best response is to not cooperate also.
Exactly.
Because nothing like it.
Does everybody see that? Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. And then let's use another market. Now let's look at the strategy profile from the perspective of player two.
Alright, if player two decides to cooperate, then player one's best choice is to not cooperate because they will receive 5 instead of 4. They would choose that. And then if player two decides to not cooperate, then player one's best choice is to also not cooperate.
see that? All right, let's have a high five. All right, so again, so this was what we showed. So Andrew made the correct observation that the fact this was earlier in the course is the Nash equilibrium, but cooperate actually is going to yield higher payoffs. And in the previous course, we looked at, well, what happened if this was a singly repeated game, like it was just today and tomorrow. Now what we're going to do is we're going to say, what if this game were repeated infinitely, right? Okay. Now, who remembers the strategy that we can employ here to ensure cooperation? What was the strategy that we used to ensure cooperation?
You have a punishment?
Uh-huh. Tell me about the punishment strategy. How does it work?
Well, if on the first time you don't follow through, you're like with the liking on the Facebook post, it's like you're terminated as a friend basically. And then if it works out, you'll continue to like each other's photos.
Exactly. And so what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to play cooperate today, and if you cooperate with me today, tomorrow I'm also going to play cooperate. But if you don't cooperate with me today, I'm going to defect on you for every subsequent period. Does everybody get that? And that's called a grim trigger strategy. So that means you basically have one shot. You mess up once and you're toast. Okay. So the grim trigger strategy says cooperate period 1 and continue to cooperate in subsequent periods if the other player cooperated in the first period. Right? And in order for that to happen, we have to have something where a person cares about the future, right? Because if you have somebody that did not care about what they ate tomorrow, did not care whether you liked their post on Facebook tomorrow, then they would always play defect, right? Because they have no valuation for the continuation part of the game, right? And so there has to be a certain level at which they care about future utility such that they would actually be affected by the strategy. Because if their weight on future utility is exactly 0, well, they would just say, well, today is today, tomorrow may never come, I may get hit by a bus, I don't care, I'm just going to defect and get and kill what I need today. So for what values of the discounting parameter delta is cooperate, and Nash equilibrium, right? Okay. What's the utility of player 1 from? So let's take player 1's strategy as being cooperate, and what we're going to do now is we're going to compute the best response of player 2, right? So if player 1 chose to cooperate, what utility does player 2 get from cooperating? In the first period, what's the payoff? The payoff is 4, right? Now, since player 2 chose to cooperate in the first period, what is player 1 going to do given their strategy? It's going to cooperate too. And so in the second period, what's going to be the utility? What's the utility?
Excuse me?
What's going to be the utility in the second period? 4 times what? 4 times delta. Because what this delta here is saying is that my valuation of the utility for tomorrow is going to be a little less than my valuation of the utility today. Does that make sense? That would be like if I said, who would like to have my car today versus having my car tomorrow? Who would prefer to have my car today? Who would prefer to have the car tomorrow instead of today? Fewer people, right? So you can think about this delta as a discounting parameter, right? And what's going to be the utility in the second period?
Delta squared?
Yeah? 4 times delta squared, because relative, so tomorrow gets discounted by a factor of delta, the day after tomorrow gets discounted by a factor of delta squared. What about the day after tomorrow? What do we get? Delta cubed, right? And on and on and on. So this is going to be an infinitely repeated sum. And so one way that we can simplify this is we can say this is equal to 4 plus 4 times delta. And we can take out a factor of 4 times delta, right? And we get 1 here, because 4 delta times 1 is 1, plus delta squared, plus dot dot dot. Right? Everyone sees that? Okay. Now, this is called the geometric series. So if delta is less than 1, if the absolute value of delta is less than 1, who knows what this geometric series sums to? So we have the sum of delta to the n equals 0 equals infinity. Who knows what that's equal to? Okay.
Is it 1 over delta?
1 over what? Delta?
1 minus delta.
Yes, 1 minus delta. Now let me show you how we get this. Because how many of you are lost at this point? Okay, you're like, we don't know how to get this. Okay. So let's do a little aside. Geometric series. And this is actually something that's important to know, not just for this context, but also for even in macroeconomics. Like if you think about the money multiplier. If everyone has a propensity to consume 0.8, if I take $1 and if I earn $1, then I consume 0.8 of those dollars, right? And then what I can do is I spend that $0.8 with Andrew, then Andrew consumes 0.8 of that 0.8, right? Then that's 0.064. And then whoever's the next person consumes 0.064 times 0.8. You get this kind of multiplier effect with the economy. So let's think about how we.
Before you explain that, can you explain me why every time delta is increasing? Why? Because delta is 4 delta, then plus 4 delta squared plus 4 delta cubed.
Right. So delta is going to be how much less I value tomorrow versus today. And so delta is going to be less than 1. And so let's say, for example, if delta were a half, right? Then what this would be saying is that the utility that I get from incorporating in the future is actually the net present value of that, the value that I have on today of tomorrow's utility is going to be 4 times delta, which is going to be 4 times a half, which is just 2. Let me give a better example. So if I have $1 today and I put it in the bank, that $1 is going to earn interest, right? And so that $1 tomorrow may be $1.05 because it earned 5% interest. Does that make sense? And so if I want to consume $1 tomorrow, I could actually invest something closer to 95 cents today. Because if I invest 95 cents today, I'll have $1 tomorrow because it's going to grow.
That's all that's shown.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is just saying that my valuation of $1 tomorrow is actually going to be 95 cents, right? Because I can put in 95 cents today and it'll grow to $1 tomorrow. So we value present utility more than we value future utility. And that's all this delta is doing. Does that make sense on your own?
But what you're saying is like it's gonna work more in the future than right now.
No. Delta is less than 1. So delta is less than 1, then 4 times delta is going to be less than 1. So using again the analogy of my car. If I told you I would give you my car today, I would give you my car tomorrow. Which would you prefer? Today. Why? Exactly. That's exactly what this delta is telling. So this delta is saying how much less do you prefer tomorrow relative to today? And when I get to tomorrow, the day after tomorrow is the tomorrow of the day after tomorrow. And so we discount it by another factor of delta. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. All right, good.
Dr. Blair,
Yes, please.
could you say where you got the 4 from again?
Oh yes, so the 4 is coming from cooperate. So what we assume is that we said, let's play this strategy that I'll cooperate in period 1. And if my partner cooperates as well, the following period I'll also cooperate. So given that player one, so let me write that here. I can put this here. Given that player one cooperates, what is the best response of player two? Right? And so we're going to take this as given. Player one is cooperating. We're saying, what's the utility of player two for cooperating? So if player two also cooperates, in the first period, player two is going to get a 4. Does everybody see that? Who sees that? If you see that, raise your hand.
Versus if they defect and they got -1.
Exactly.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And we're gonna consider what happens if they defect too.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay. Now in time period 2, since player 2 chose to cooperate in time period 1, player 1 is also going to play cooperate too, because that's the strategy that player 1 is committed to. So they're also going to get 4. And they're just going to continue to cooperate for the rest of their time together. And so you get 4 plus 4 times delta plus 4 times delta squared plus so on and so forth. Does that make sense? Okay, great.
Dr. Blair, I do have just one question.
Sure.
For whenever you're going through the matrix, does it change, like is it player 1, player 2 always, or when it depends on the viewpoint that you're looking at?
So it's always, no, that's a good point. So it's always, so for example, player 2 is this guy on the left here, so that means everything that's the leftmost entries are going to be for player 2. So this here is saying that player 2 is going to, I should have switched these two indices. That's a good point. I could call this one player 1 and player 2. But what this is going to mean here is that player 2 is going to get 4, player 1 is going to get 4, player 2 is going to get -1, player 1 is going to get 5.
And that stays the same throughout the whole.
Yeah. Whatever is the leftmost, whichever player is the leftmost is always going to get the leftmost entry in the matrix too.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Now, what I claimed is that the sum of this geometric series is going to be 1 over 1 minus delta. Okay, let's just take that as given for now, and I'm going to compute the two different utilities. What do you want me to solve for that? I'm sure you have that. Who wants to see that? Nobody wants to. You want to see that?
No one else does, and I'm fine.
It's very simple. It's very simple. I'll show you guys very quickly. So let's define Sn in the following way. So let's let Sn be 1 plus delta squared plus delta cubed plus delta to the n, right? So this is the nth term of that sum, right? This is going to be very easy. Just say this is going to be easy. Say it, this is going to be easy. It really is going to be easy. So this is Sn, right? I'm just defining this. Now, let's do delta times Sn. Delta times Sn is just going to be multiply everything in here by delta, right? So that's going to make this one term, delta. This delta term, delta squared. This delta squared term, delta cubed. This delta cubed term, delta 4. Plus ... delta to the n plus 1. You guys agree? Let's call this equation 1. And let's call this equation 2. Now let's do, what is Sn minus delta Sn? Now we're assuming that delta is going to be less than 1. So Sn minus delta Sn, right? You can see that all of these terms in the middle here are the same as these terms here. Does everybody see that? And so when we subtract delta times Sn from Sn, we're just going to be left with 1. You can see that, Ali?
I did know.
Okay. We're going to get 1 minus delta to the n plus 1. Everyone sees that? Who does not see that? Who sees that? Raise your hand. Okay, so some of you did not raise your hand, so who's unclear on what we did so far?
Can you clarify what's an S?
Oh,
Like,
this
at the end
is
of
an
the-
S.
But at the end of the equation, are those all deltas?
No, this is a delta here. This is delta raised to the power of n plus 1. Thank you so much. You keep me honest about my notation. So this is Sn minus delta times Sn.
And then above that on the.
This is delta times Sn.
That's the end of.
And this is delta n plus 1.
Okay, so that is delta n plus 1.
Yes. And did it make sense how we got here? Who understood this step? Just raise your hand. Okay, great. And so you guys understand this step here? So everything here is going to subtract out from this guy here. We're just going to be left with the two endpoints. The one from equation 1 and the delta n plus 1, which is not canceled, right?
Can you do the last step again, please?
This last step here? Okay, so if you look at delta Sn, it has all of these terms. Delta all the way to delta to the n, right? And if you look at this equation 1 here, you see all of these terms here as well. So when we subtract, all of these terms are going to cancel with all of these terms. And it's only going to leave this term and this term. So we just get 1 minus delta to the n plus 1. Now, we can take out a factor of Sn. And that's just going to be Sn times 1 minus delta is equal to 1 minus delta to the n plus 1. Does everyone see that? We've just moved terms here. So that's going to imply that Sn is equal to 1 minus delta to the n plus 1 over 1 minus delta. Does everyone see that? Who sees that? Just raise your hand. Who does not see that? Okay, good. So this is what this sum is equal to. Remember, Sn is just doing this sum. This Sn term is just the sum of delta to the n from n equals 0 to, I should put n here, let's call this k. So k equals 0 to n. And so if we want to figure out what this infinite sum is, we just have to figure out what happens when n goes to infinity. Does that make sense? And so this sum delta to the k and k equals 0 to infinity is just going to be the limit as n goes to infinity of Sn. Right? You guys see that? And if we take a number that's smaller than 1 and we multiply it by itself an infinite amount of times, what are we going to get? Right? Because if you take a half times, what's 1/10 times 1/10? 100th. What's 100th times 1/10? 1,000. So what's 1,000th times 1/10? 1/10,000, right? And so if you take a number that's smaller than 1 in absolute value, and you just multiply it by itself an infinite amount of times, it's just going to go to 0. And so this guy here is just going to be 1 minus 0 over 1 minus delta, which is 1 over 1 minus delta. Everyone see that?
Huh?
Yeah. I see some confused looks in the back. Did you guys in the back there get it? You good? Okay, perfect. So we showed this. Was this hard?
A little bit.
Was it easier than you thought?
Yeah.
Okay, good, yeah. All right, so what we do is, so we use this relationship here. Let's go back to here, right? I'm going to erase this little piece here. So let's figure out what's the utility of player 2 for playing cooperate, given that player 1 is playing this trigger strategy. So we're going to get 4 plus 4 delta times this infinite sum here, right? So that's just going to be 4 plus 4 delta times what? What's this sum equal to? What is this sum equal? Right, 1 over 1 minus delta. So that's just 4 plus 4 delta over 1 minus delta. The second part is going to be super easy. Does everybody have this written down here? Who does not have this written down? Ali, Bailey, you guys have this written down? Okay, great. All right. Okay. Now let's look at the utility of player 2 from defecting, given that player 1 is playing the scrim trigger strategy, right? So in period 1, what is player 1 going to do? What is player 1 committed to do? No, player 1 is committed to cooperate, right? So player 1 is going to cooperate. So if player 2 defects, what is player 1 going to do in period 1? So, sorry, I mixed that up. Player 1 plays cooperate, player 2 plays defect, and so player 2 is going to get a utility of 5, right? Does everybody see that? Okay. So player 2 in period 1 is going to get a utility of 5. But now, because player 2 has defected in period 1, what is player 1 going to do in the subsequent period? is gonna defect. And when player 1 defects, what's the best response of player 2? Defect. Everyone sees that? What is player 2 gonna get in terms of utility? 0, right? So utility you're gonna get is 0. And what is the 0 gonna be multiplied by? Delta, okay. Now, in the subsequent period, right, what is player 1 going to play? And why is player 1 going to play defect in the subsequent period?
Player 2 didn't cooperate.
Because player 2 did not cooperate, right? Yeah? So you get 0 times delta squared plus so on and so forth. What's 0 times delta? 0. So the utility of defecting is just going to be 5. So literally you just get to be popular for a day, and then after that you get defriended the following day, and it's done. Like, friendship is over. As Taylor Swift would say, now we have bad blood, right? Okay, good. So this is utility of player 2 from cooperating, and this is the bad blood utility here, right? So when is it going to be optimal for player 2? Under what conditions, for what values of delta, is it going to be optimal for player 2 to play cooperate, given these strategies? How do we find that? So for which values of delta is cooperation preferable to defection? So we know what the utility of cooperation is, and we know what the utility of defection is. So how can we compare these two to figure out when is it best to cooperate?
Do you put them
I don't know.
equal to each other?
Say that again?
Do you put them equal to each other and then solve the delta?
Right, so that'll give us a threshold, right? But when will we cooperate? What's under which conditions will we cooperate? Like, what would be the relationship between the utility for cooperation versus the utility for defection? It will be less than, greater than, right? So if the utility from cooperation is greater than the utility from defection, then we'll do what? Right? Everyone clear on that? So if the utility of player 2 from cooperate is greater than the utility of player 2 for defection, this is the condition. What's the utility from cooperation? That's right, 4 plus 4 delta over 1 minus delta. That must be greater than what? 5, right? Okay. So the way that we solve this is we say 4 delta over 1 minus delta is greater than 5 minus 4, which is just 1, right? Everyone follow that step of algebra? And then what we can do is we can multiply both sides by 1 minus delta. And so we get 4 delta must be greater than 1 minus delta. Everyone follows that? Yeah. Okay, good. And so we can